and welcome in to this Wednesday, Hump Day.
Hump Day.
October 10, 2018. Thanks a lot for taking us along wherever you're going, whatever you may be doing. We appreciate you taking us along for a ride. Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle here for you. Your listening pleasure. Justin Kalen high atop the crew chief's box.
That's right.
I hope your day is off to a great start. Ours is, because we're here with you, and we appreciate it. Looking forward to it. Great show today, as always. Matt Weaver, Peaks.com, will be on. David Eickholt from 247 Sports in Iowa. We'll get the perspective for the Hawkeyes today. Looking forward to that as well. Big week coming up. Mitchell Page, he's going to be here on Friday.
Nice.
Looking forward to hearing from Mitchell. So another big week. Still working on getting Xander. He hit me back last night. Sorry that he forgot. So we'll get that worked out. But before we get much further, let's get to the headlines with Justin.
All right, here are your headlines for this October 10th on this Wednesday. Brought to you by Billy Joe's Gas and Food Mart, located on Highway 150 in Floyd's Knobs. Indiana University legend and first African-American football player drafted to the NFL, George Taliaferro, dies at age 91. Red Sox defeat the Yankees 4-3 last night to advance to the ALCS against the Astros. The NLCS will feature the Brewers and the Dodgers. And Brian Bowen Sr. was back on the stand yesterday. Not a whole lot coming out of it other than Kenny Johnson paying him $1,300. Those are your headlines. Brought to you by Billy Joe's Gas and Food Mart, located on Highway 150 in Floyd's Knobs. Make sure you stop in for your hot breakfast, fill your gas tank, or hit up the daily lunch special. $5.99 today. Barbecue chicken, cheese potatoes, and coleslaw.
Louisville is probably in a little bit of fear right now.
In trouble.
I've said it all along, and the Louisville fans were, to me, in this state of oblivion. They've acted like things are just going to be peachy keen. Yeah. And I'm like, not so fast, my friend.
We just got 4 years of probation. It's all going to be fine.
Yeah, we got hit for, I'm like, not for this you didn't. I go, that was for that. They think that this is all going to be all piled in because everybody else is getting caught. I go, but the thing that they keep forgetting, everybody else wasn't on double secret probation already when they committed these acts. You're a two-time felon, baby. You're what's called a repeat offender.
Yeah.
Your ass is grass.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm out on the street and I get pulled over by a cop and they find a gun in my car, if I'm not on probation, I'm not going anywhere. They find somebody with a gun in their car on probation, it's a completely different story. It's the same thing with this. I mean, Louisville is not in a good situation.
No. I saw one tweet yesterday from Tim Sullivan, the Courier-Journal columnist, talking about, I think he quoted someone, a former player, saying he would not be surprised if the recruits decommitted.
Yeah.
You know, Chris Mack done a good job from outside appearances of landing a good recruiting class of a bunch of 4-stars. I kept telling, it cracks up, your brother sends me a text every time he gets a commitment. And
maybe we should send him a text every time they get a decommit.
Well, and I'm like, has he gotten a 5-star yet? I said, that's what I said. He will not land a major recruit. And I sent that text to him the other day. I didn't get a response back. Funny. Yeah, but U of L is Kenny Johnson reportedly gave $1,300 to Brian Bowen Sr., which that's a violation. And especially when you're already on probation for violations, where you were charged with lack of institutional control. I mean, you got it hit. You got hit pretty good the last time. You lost a banner, baby. But that does not include this. This is a whole separate deal.
Yeah, and given a recruiter recruits parents money, not a good situation, regardless. But when you're on probation, here's my thing. Maybe Brian Bowen Sr. and his wife maybe shouldn't have been staying in a $2,300 a month apartment. Just a thought.
Why? They're getting paid by everybody. Why not?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, if you want to continue to pay my bills, yeah, I'll stay.
Well, they did pay their bills.
Yeah.
They was getting $2,000 a month from Lyle Lemure.
Yeah.
Well, that was 2 years ago, I guess, that ended. You got offers of. Didn't he get an offer of $200,000 from somebody?
Well, I don't recall seeing that. DePaul? That would surprise me.
Well, that's what Patino had reportedly said to one of his assistants. DePaul has offered this kid X amount.
Well, I couldn't imagine DePaul having that.
Did you notice something that did not come out yesterday with Brian Bowen Sr.? That I'm aware of?
What's that?
Any mention of Rick Pitino.
Sure.
And knowledge and participation of said action. Now, I'm not saying he didn't deserve to lose his job because they were already in a quagmire of crap because of his hires, because of his, his first dalliance was off the court with what's her name? I don't even care to remember her name. Psycho woman. What was that movie with the boiling rabbit?
With the what?
Well, never mind. Why am I asking you?
I was like, did he just ask me a question that started with what was the movie?
The movie, yeah. And then as soon as I thought I was talking to a normal person, and it dawned on me, it's you in there.
Far from normal.
There's a movie where a guy cheats on his wife with this girl, and she's psycho. And the next thing you know, he finds his daughter's rabbit boiling in a pot of water on his stove.
Whoa.
Yeah, that kind of crazy. But anyway, now I digress. I forgot. What was I even talking about?
Trial.
The trial. Oh. Anyway, Pitino still has not been implicated to my knowledge. Which, again, I'm not saying he didn't deserve to be fired. His quagmire of crap for the school led him down a bad place because of his hires and whatnot. But no one has put the finger on Pitino yet. And that's one of the things that he was saying. Which I've said as well. I don't believe that he knew anything about a payment to Bowen. I don't. That's not worth that to him, I don't think. I don't think he felt he needed to do that.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you've had as long of a career as Rick Pitino has. As long and successful. He's
a few years away removed from winning another national championship. Yeah, I don't see that. He didn't need to do that. So I don't believe he knew about the payments. I don't believe he knew about the stripper gate. He would have put squashed it immediately.
Yeah.
Just because of the danger.
Now that almost changes everything though. If the assistants were running behind his back trying to be shady about it, like can't let coach know. We can't let coach know.
Well, he did say that. I mean, Jordan Fair's on tape in Las Vegas in a hotel room.
He was
saying specifically, we got to keep this on the down low. We're already on probation.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a different situation, and it makes me feel completely different about it if the assistants were going behind Rick.
Well, that was
Rick's
always
back.
the case.
Yeah.
What did you think was the case?
Well, I mean, I always kind of thought, to be honest with you, that Rick Pitino knew.
No way.
But I mean,
why in the hell?
Well, no, I know.
Why? What? For no reason. Just removed from winning the national championship.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to pay somebody $100,000. I'm sorry, I don't believe it. It's not that I'm not a Pitino fan, but it's just common sense. Didn't need to do it.
Yeah, no, I'm of that mindset now, but when all this first initially came out, it's kind of, Rick Pitino seems like a sleazeball. You think, he probably knew about all this. But yeah, I mean, the more that comes out, it's likely he didn't know anything. And the assistants were just sleazeballs behind his back. Which, unfortunate for Louisville, unfortunate for Rick that it cost him his job, but
or it's likely he said, I don't want to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Don't ever tell me. It could have been that situation. I don't think so, but regardless, it would have cost him his job just because of the position it has put the school in again.
Sure.
His hire did this. His hires. It's not just one. This is two of them this time. Two of them acting nefariously. That's the third assistant coach of his within the last couple of years breaking major rules. Of course he's going to lose his damn job. You cannot be that lax. That's not one instance. You got your own character issues. Seriously. Now you got every assistant has a character issue.
Yeah. It seems to be a...
Apple doesn't far fall from the tree.
There you go.
So they got what they deserved. But well, you have to see what's going to happen from that. That's going to be very interesting to find out. See all these 4-star commitments that Chris Mack has landed for them. See if that sticks. Give us a shout out on the text line. Want to hear what you're thinking. What are your thoughts? Doesn't matter. What subject matter? Pick a topic. 502-414-1450. Got Matt Weaver on the program today and David Eickholt from 247 Sports in Iowa. We'll get the perspective of the Hawkeyes as the Indiana Hoosiers will take on Iowa this weekend. We'll hear from Kirk Ferentz, Tom Allen, some players. We've got it all for you today here on Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle, and we're coming right back.
Also told you that I like to bite. Well, yeah, I guess it's obvious I also like to write. All you had to do was give Humpty a chance, so now I'm gonna do my dance. The Humpty dance is your chance to do the hump. Come on, yeah, sexy lady. Do the Humpty hump. I'll do the Humpty hump. Sexy baby.
This is Jim Coyle. When I'm not on the road covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 on the northeast side of I-65 at Veterans Parkway in Clarksville. Bring the team in for that post-win meal in the family dining area or just meet friends for happy hour. Bubba's has bold burgers, hand-tossed pizzas, mouth-watering wings, and a list of select local craft brewers for the coldest beer in town. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Burgers, pizza, beer.
Got a problem with your big truck? Kentuckiana's Premier Truck Center is here to help. For over 30 years, truck drivers and fleet operators have depended on their great service center off I-65 in Clarksville. And now you can get the same level of service, repairs, and parts selection that's been offered for generations and save on bridge tolls with their new location on the Outer Loop in South Louisville. They're an authorized Mack, Volvo, and Hino dealer and service center, but they service all makes and models of trucks. Kentuckiana's Premier Truck Center.
Today's guest is brought to you by Kentuckiana's Premier Truck Center, located 5 miles north of downtown Louisville, just off of I-65 at Veterans Parkway in Clarksville.
Today's music ain't got the same soul. I like that old-timer rock and roll.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat. Jim Coyle here, and as promised, very fortunate to be joined by Maurice Creek, former IU great that very popular. Maurice, thanks a lot for joining us, man. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. Over in the Ukraine right now playing ball, and how's it going over there? I'm sorry we just asked that question, but the microphone wasn't working. But how's it going over in the Ukraine for you?
You know, we're still learning each other. We haven't really been together that long, and we've been practicing a lot as of lately. So we have one coming up this Friday, and we're going to make up for, last week's game.
What's life like living over in the Ukraine? I mean, that's someplace that I have never been. It's just got to be an experience of a lot of different ways, but it's just got to be a unique one at that.
Actually, it's great here. I didn't know what to expect at first, but I'm in one of the best cities in Ukraine, so it's called Kyiv, and it's really great here. I like the city. It's cold right now, of course, but it's a lot to experience here, and the people are great, and I'm enjoying it.
Do you have one of those Russian hats that they all wear over there when it gets cold? They put those down. You're one of the most beloved Hoosiers, man, and you had a rough time. Injuries really beset you when you were at IU, but when you played, very memorable, some great games, the 31-point output against Kentucky. But When you were there, you were at the beginning of the Tom Crean era. What was that like during that part of having to be a part of a blue blood program like Indiana that had fallen on hard times, but being part of that foundation to bring it back?
It was a learning experience. I didn't know what to expect coming into college. Me being a freshman and being one of the best high school players in the country. It's high school to college is different. So when I got to college, I had to learn more about the game, and as time went on, I just flowed with the game and let the game come to me, and it did. And I had some big games, and unfortunately, I had some injuries under the way, but definitely learned a lot coming in as a freshman at Indiana and having to bring back a organization that had fallen.
And in the beginning, like I said, Indiana had fallen on hard times. Tom Crean at the beginning of a rebuilding job there. What was the difference? What was it like in the beginning when you guys were really just at the bottom looking up, and then toward the end when the success was starting to come?
I think the difference was just the talent that we had bought. As time went on, people kind of bought into what the program was about. Like I said, I don't think none of us knew what to expect when any of us came. It was 6 of us when we first got there. And we didn't know what to expect. But then as time went on, we started to grow. We started to really experience what it would take to be a great basketball team, and we brought in more pieces to the puzzle, and it showed. One of the best teams to actually grow together. A lot of the people see that we were number 1 in the country, but they don't understand what it took to get there. It was a real grind for us. So I think a lot of us appreciated the fact that we had to grind for it instead of it just being handed to us.
And that has to help as you go forward in life, period, but even in your career, to be on something that basically you guys were at ground zero. I mean, you started at the bottom, but you took it from the bottom to the top. And that's got to be good personally, feel great personally. It's got to stick with you and help you in your professional career.
Definitely. Like I said, it helped me a lot, especially me going into my 5th year as a professional now. I've learned a lot about the game just because of what I had to go through at IU.
And there's so many aspects to playing professionally overseas. I know I talked to Lance Stemler a while back. He's on the show frequently, and talked about how you have to learn from a business standpoint of certain countries will pay your salary and taxes and all that stuff, so others don't. So you have to really become a business person in addition to being a professional athlete.
Most definitely. It's a whole another ball game when you get into the professional game and from the college game, and it's I think people just see the basketball aspect of it, but when you're thinking about being a professional athlete and you're getting there for the first time or your first couple of years, you actually have to really pay attention to what's important about the game, because people think about more from the game than what you might be thinking about. When you're playing basketball, you just say, hey, let's put the ball in the hole, and that's it. But a lot of people don't see, like in the professional game, they look at percentages, they look at your body, they look, it's a lot to the game that they look at that you don't actually look at first. So it's real good to experience stuff like that.
What are some of your favorite moments of looking back on your Indiana career that you experienced? I know there was some lows, but there were some highs too. What are some of your favorite high points?
Of course, the Kentucky game when I had 31 against Kentucky. I think that one was the most high to me because of the fact that they didn't know what to expect. Everybody was expecting us just to fall down. I mean, we lost the game, but we fought and that team was very talented. That team actually should have won it. I think should have won a national championship.
Oh yeah, wasn't that John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins and all those guys?
Yeah,
Yeah, I was at that game. What a talented team! And what you guys were at halftime? Was it a 1-point game or tied?
I think it was tied up at the first half.
Yeah, I remember that. It was a hell of a game, and this is a team, like you said. These guys were crazy talented as far as the NBA talent, and as you can see, John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins, long careers in the NBA, and you guys, I think you kind of punched them in the mouth a little bit.
Yeah, and then a lot of people noticed that. I mean, especially John. Like, I think he was on NBA TV at one time, and he was with Isaiah Thomas, and they were talking about that game, and that just shows, like, they didn't know what to expect either, and we came out and fought, and we really gained respect because of that. We were a very young team. They're a very young team too, but their talent level was unreal, and for us to fight that hard and just happen to fall at the end, we really gained respect from them.
Are you able to stay in contact with many of your teammates from back in that era?
I stay in contact with Victor. Sometimes I see him. We're from the same area. Sometimes I might may hit Christian up on social media. I know him and Trendon being one of the top players in the country as a high schooler. I might contact him just comment to him. But I understand, like, a lot of us are still playing ball overseas. Like, Jordan's playing now, Christian, Vic, all of us are most likely playing overseas. So we understand that, so, like, we'll get together when we can. But right now I feel like everybody's busy trying to, get ready for their seasons and their situations and everything. So right now I don't think, like, we're that close, like, as we should be.
How long is your season does it go? Will you be able to come back to any games this year?
Well, I mean, the way it works over here is that, we have a break from December into January, but I'm not really sure. Me playing for a national team coach in Ukraine this year, I know he's more precise on practices than the games. We have like 28 games, not really a lot. We might play twice a week, but sometimes I know we won't. And so right now, I'm not sure if I'll be able to come home. I know the regular season ends in March, but we have a very talented team this year, so I know we'll be going into playoffs and stuff like that. So I'm not really sure I'll be able to really come to a game this year. But I really do want to get down there in the summertime. I really want to see the guys that are still there and probably work out there. I know one of my good guys, Taylor Ware. He's a trainer now. I need to get up with him and train with him a couple of times. And there's a lot of things I want to do. And I really want to see Bloomington again, because it's been a very long time since I've been down there, just because I've been playing overseas for so many years. It's just haven't really got a chance to get down there because I was so worried about getting ready for the season.
Talking with Maurice Creek, former IU great, back in the Tom Crean era, 2009 to 13 in that era. Maurice, what do you think? Have you been able to follow what's going on in Bloomington, Archie Miller and the team now? What do you think of what he's done and him as a coach?
It reminds me of what we had to go through at first. You know what I mean? Like when Coach Crean first came in and he was, gaining the talent that he needs to gain to be a great team, and that's exactly what Coach Miller has did, and it makes it that much greater. Derek's there because when I know Derek has probably said something to them about the grind that they have to do or they have to be a great team, and now he's getting the talent. He has a very talented core, and I'm excited to see what they're doing this year. I'm overseas, but I still follow the team, and I'll be watching a lot of their games this year, just because of the fact that I'm still a Hoosier at heart, and can't wait to see how they fit together this year. I'm very excited. I really want to see what the freshman Romelo can do. Romeo can do in the league. I mean, he's very talented. I've watched him in high school, and now that he's at IU, I really want to see what he can bring to the table for them too.
Yeah, he's really gotten the magical touch. He won the dunk contest, and I think he could have really done it with a layup. He was very popular that night. You can tell the crowd is already just really bought into the Romeo fever. What, as a player, though, is that helpful or not helpful? That's a lot of expectations heaped on somebody who hasn't even played a first college game yet.
Well, I think when I was there, I was expected to do something too, and I didn't really take it as a pressure type of standpoint, and I don't think he will either. I think it's just like, hey, this is basketball, you know what I'm saying? We understand what we have to do for our teams to make our teams great, and I think that's what he's going to do. I mean, I understand he can score in basketball, and I feel like that's exactly what he's going to have to be able to do, and I have no doubt that he can do that. It's freshman or not, it's just still basketball. If you put the basketball on the hole, that's your job. That's what you got to be able to do.
And, a lot of people talk about how things change and whatnot, but has there been that much change in the college game between your era and right now?
Not that I see. I mean, talent is getting better every year. It's just getting more and more talented every year. More people are getting more athletic. People are, you got 7-footers now that's playing like guards. Really didn't see that other than DeMarcus when I played in college. Like when he was at college, I mean, Coach Kyle Park really had him to the back to the basket, but you could obviously see like that DeMarcus could put the ball in the ground. But now you can see a lot of 7-footers like putting the ball in the ground, shooting threes, and it's just getting better and better every year. And the reason why it's getting like that is because everybody is getting that type of talent every year. It's not just like your Dukes or North Carolinas. You might hit a mid-major, and you might find that guy. That might be a sneaker. So it's just that college is getting better every year.
Yeah, Indiana's best three-point shooter, 6'11", Evan Fitzner. That's so he is legitimately their best. He shoots 42% at 6'11". So yeah, there's your point, case in point, exactly. Maurice, I can't thank you enough for joining us, and I'd love to be able to do this again, and we'll start off with no technical difficulties next time. But I'm very happy. I went along for talking to someone in the Ukraine. I'm pretty happy.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. I can't wait to do it again, and hopefully I talk to you soon.
Look forward to it. We wish you luck, and we'll keep up with you and see how your things are going with you, Maurice. Thank you so much. We appreciate you very much, Maurice Creek.
Thank you.
Maurice Creek, former IU basketball great, looking very happy to have him on the program today, all the way from the Ukraine, getting that worked out. I had a little technical difficulty to start out with, but we got that fixed up. Not bad. I can't complain. Talking to somebody in the Ukraine, that's a first for me. So, and now I guess we can add another country to the show map that we listen to. Of course, he was brought to you by Kentuckiana's Premier Truck Center. Whether it's one truck or the entire fleet, Kentuckiana's Premier Truck Center has your company covered for sales or service. They've got locations in Louisville and Clarksville. Give John or Aaron a call. Kentuckiana's Premier Truck Center, experts in Volvo, Hino, Cummins, and Mack trucks. Well, they handle everything. We've got Mike Schumann from the Daily Hoosier coming up next here on Indiana Sports Beat, coming right back.
If you're a homeowner and have storm damage to your roof, you want a hometown contractor you can count on and trust. Brooks Roofing of New Albany has been doing quality work since 2006. Check out their work for yourself at brooksroofingin.com. No job is too big or too small, commercial or residential. Brooks Roofing is probably working in your neighborhood right now. Visit brooksroofingin.com or call 812-868-ROOF. That's 812-868-ROOF. Brooks Roofing, the protection you need when nature strikes.
This hour of Indiana Sports Beat is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. With hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat here on Big X. Jim Coyle with you. Justin Kalen high atop the crew chief's box.
That's right. Hump day.
Mentioned earlier, George Taliaferro, former IU great, passes away at the age of 91. Few things he's known for. He was the first African-American drafted in the NFL way back. Also the first African-American to play quarterback in the NFL. Little things of note. He was inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame in 1981. In 1945, he led Indiana to a 9-0-1 mark in a Big Ten championship. So Indiana used to actually play football.
Yeah.
I mean, succeeded successfully in the Big Ten. They were there, right there with everybody else, and then all of a sudden, I think it was like the 50s, boom, or the 60s. It was the 60s. There was a coach got in trouble for something, and they got hammered for it, and that was the end of the program. Didn't recover from that.
Sounds a lot like SMU, except for no death penalty.
A lot like it. But, yeah, it was they hammered him. But George Taliaferro, he'll be recognized in a lot of different ways. That this weekend's homecoming game against Iowa, one way is the traditional decal on the helmet's going to be replaced with number 44.
I like that.
So that'll be cool. They'll have a video tribute and a lot of other things as well.
All flags on campus will be lowered to half staff through this weekend's game, and moment of silence as well prior to the game.
The Red Sox moved on last night in Major League Baseball's playoff picture as they knock off the New York Yankees. First time they had played in a minute, like 14 years.
Yep. Yankees nearly came back in that game last night.
Loaded the bases up, man.
Yeah.
Got within one. It was a 4-1 game going into the ninth inning, and then the next thing you know, bases are juiced. And then they hit a player to bring in a run. Walked in a run, right?
Yeah,
walked in a run to make it 4-2. Hit a batter to make it 4-3. And then they're able to get a ground out.
Yeah, I needed to go to bed long before that game was over, but I just couldn't. I had a feeling the Yankees were going to make it interesting. Glad I stayed up, but I wish they would have completed it to make it worth it.
Well, I had just gotten back from a trip to Madisonville.
I saw that.
To watch the Madisonville North Hopkins Maroons.
District champions?
Girls win their district championship last night. 13 or 15-2 on the season.
What was tell everybody, because I saw it in the picture, what was the score of their district final last night?
8-1.
That's incredible.
They shouldn't have scored the one. The one was a fluke goal. The goalie came out, should not have come out. I mean, I noticed she did that like 3 or 4 times last night in that game. Leaving the goal area and coming out to make a play, which I don't have a problem with, but this one time it was just still advised, and the ball just gets knocked over and just almost dribbles into the net. But
something tells me with an 8-1 win, Coach wasn't too mad about it.
Yeah, but I hate to lose.
Yeah.
Give up a shutout on something like that.
Yeah, no doubt.
But anyway, on to the regionals. So they're very happy. So happy for them. What
are they still like top 3 in state? Weren't they?
No, they're in like top 10.
No, okay.
But they took them forever to get ranked because They hadn't been ranked for a few years, and now after 15-2, they're like, oh,
We'll put them in.
They beat some big teams. They beat the University Heights down in Hopkinsville. It's a very good program, so that got them a lot of notoriety. But they're going to be great for a couple of years because at one point last night I looked out, and their main players out of the 11, I think 9 are underclassmen.
Wow.
Freshman and sophomore.
They'll be good for a while.
Yeah, they got a good future in front of them. Looking forward to that. Kylie's starting, so very happy for her. But they had fun. Looking forward to moving on. Soccer, baby. It's all rolling right now.
Louisville City with a big win last night.
Oh, I did not see that. How are they doing?
They're in second in the Eastern Conference still. So, sitting pretty for the playoffs.
You got Indy 11. You just see how the Indy 11 are doing.
Indy 11.
Do they play Louisville?
I assume, yeah.
I would think, but I never
Yeah, they
hear
do.
that.
They actually play, funny you asked, they actually play Saturday.
There you go.
Up in Indy.
How apropos. There you go. That should be a good match. Yeah, someone who was not into soccer. I'm just not into soccer. Didn't grow up with it. But because of my daughter, I learned it and then gained a great appreciation for it. Now I found myself watching it. Especially I enjoy watching IU soccer.
Yeah. IU soccer is a thing of beauty.
Well, of course.
It's easy to watch that.
But if you don't like something, if you're not into it, but yeah, it's very fun following those guys. Fun following good anything. It makes it a lot more enjoyable. We got a big show today. Matt Weaver from Pigs.com is on with us as David Eickholt from 247 Sports in Iowa as we'll get the Hawkeyes perspective. Also, Kirk Ferentz, press conference yesterday. I believe we've got some sound from him to hear what he's thinking about this weekend. So here's here with Coach Ferentz, the longest tenured football coach in America, coach of the Iowa Hawkeyes.
We didn't talk much about that, but they're similar in some ways to what we just saw. But the big difference in my mind is the quarterback is a very versatile guy. He's a really good thrower. They've got a good attack. Their offense coordinator is a veteran coach who really is highly regarded by, I think, everybody in football. And they put pressure on you in a lot of different ways, good receivers, good running backs. But I think the big wild card here is the quarterback. He can pull it down and run. Some of it's designed. Other things, if it opens up, he'll just take off. And, if you lose contain, I just got done watching a play a couple of hours ago where last week's opponent got sucked inside a little bit, and he's right around the left end for a first down. And those are the things that keep drives going really tend to be tough. And, we made their job easier on their first scoring drive last week. We picked up a 5-yard penalty, right, on a 3rd and 8 or 9, whatever it was, all set. Now they got 3rd and 4. They convert it right down the field. So those kinds of plays, to defend those, you really have to play good team defense. And, he really plays well. And he plays with a lot of poise for being a young player. He's a young guy, but, boy, you never know it.
Coach Kirk Ferentz, the longest tenured coach in American college football. How long has he been there? Like 19 years? Or the head coach?
I don't think that long. I think maybe 14 or 15.
I think it's been longer than that.
I'll find it.
But Indiana taking on the Iowa Hawkeyes this week. A winnable game, but a very important game. It's an opportunity for Indiana to grab a signature victory for Tom Allen, which they have not been able to get accomplished yet here in his second season.
Lucky guess. Started in 99. 19 years. 18 years.
Lucky guess, or maybe well-informed.
That too.
But but also forget the signature win. It's a 5th win. It would be a 5th win, and getting them one game closer to bowl eligibility, which is tantamount to what they're trying to accomplish this season. To Coach Tom Allen trying to get this team back to a bowl game after missing out last year for the first time and after 3 consecutive trips. Was looking at some of the bowl prospects last night You know, I don't know how you can go by any of this stuff, but a couple of them I enjoyed. I'll have to find where they were, but I pretty much got it memorized because there's only 3 options that they had of the picks where people would send Indiana. Probably 4 of, if there were 8 selections, 4 of them probably sent Indiana to the Quick Lane Bowl in Detroit, which is like the, I don't know, second lowest bowl that there is for Division I, I think. It's just, it's a bowl game. You're getting a check. You're probably breaking even after you take the band and every single person from Indiana University. But anyway.
Well, don't all the league teams that make a bowl game, don't they split all the revenue evenly that they earn from the bowls?
I think the Big Ten does.
Yeah. Yeah, Big Ten specifically, yeah.
But I think you have to I think you have to make a bowl game though.
Right, yeah. If you don't make a bowl game, you don't get any of that. Right.
Right. So that's why it's hugely important. Big payday. But also it's a good look for the program.
Sure.
Not making a bowl, you suck. You're 5-7 because if you're 6-6, you're going to a bowl. So that's tantamount. That is what they're trying to get to. They're building for the future. They're not building for this year. I don't know how I completely feel about that. Kind of made that known. I don't know why you give up on us. I'm not saying they've given up on the season, but it's not like that they're putting all their eggs into the basket of this season.
Right.
They're not trying to be as best as they can be this season, I don't think. I think they're trying to be as good as they're trying to be, if that makes sense. I think there's a mark that they want to reach. They want to get to a bowl game. They want to win 6 games, get to a bowl game. I think that's what seems to be the goal here, not winning 8, 9 games. Not trying to do that, rather. So,
yeah, I don't disagree with you that they could be doing some different things to get to 8, 9 wins, like you said. But you take a look at Tom Allen's first year, last year 5-7. You get to a bowl game this year in year 2. That's improvement. No matter what bowl it is, that's improvement over last year. And I agree with you.
But last year they shouldn't have missed a bowl game last year. That's the problem.
Yeah, that's very true as well.
So I don't know if you can say it's improvement. You regressed last year. You should not have missed a bowl last year. They should not have lost to Maryland last year. They should not have lost to Michigan last year. They should not have lost to Purdue last year.
Fair point.
They should have won 8 games last year. Should have won 8 games this year. It's not going to happen, I don't think. But should have. Talent's there.
No doubt about that.
The equation, the needed ingredients are there. So that's the issue. Should have been 8-win game seasons 2 years in a row, easy. And this season, with the way the schedule was laid out, could not have made given a better opportunity. But regardless, anyway, it doesn't matter. That program has a captain, and that's Tom Allen, and how whatever he decides, it's what they're going to do, and they're moving forward. They're developing the way they're developing the offense. They're doing it. It's not like they're not doing a great job.
Yeah.
I mean, they are moving forward. They are improving. They've got to get the defense improved, actually. I mean, if the Ohio State game showed you anything, the defense is a little further behind than the offense. But we kind of knew that. They lost a lot last year. It's a lot of rebuilding. They got a lot of youth.
They have created, I want to say, 13 turnovers.
Yeah, they're leading the Big Ten in a lot of those categories.
So defensively, they haven't been awful.
No. They did well against the run against Ohio State.
Sure.
But was that because they did well against the run, or is that because Ohio State was throwing for 455 yards and 6 touchdowns?
Sure.
It begs the question. Yeah. This week will be a good opportunity to see how they really are. Because last week you see them against the number 3 team in the country. Well, it's not a fair comparison. Indiana's not the number 3 team. They're not the number 5. They're not in the top 20 right now. So it's not really a fair comparison comparing them to a team that is obviously superior in size, talent, and everything else. Iowa, I think they're kind of pretty equally matched. Statistically, Iowa's a little better off in a lot of categories, but Indiana's ahead in some of the offensive categories. But Iowa seems to be more efficient offensively. That is key. And that's something how I see an Iowa Kirk Ferentz team. Efficient. Yeah. Without mistakes. They get less penalties. All that leads to success. All that leads to scoring, because when you're on a drive and you don't get 2 or 3 stupid false starts or offside penalties or whatever the case may be that stalls a drive out, it makes a huge difference for a team. If you've got 2 teams that are equally matched, like I think these 2 teams are, making mistakes is tantamount to losing. Yeah. Because these 2 teams are pretty equally matched. And there's going to be little things like that is going to be the difference between winning and losing in this game.
Yeah, and you heard Kirk Ferentz how complimentary he was of Peyton Ramsey and Indiana's offense.
Coach speak.
Maybe. Tom Allen also was very complimentary on Iowa's offense.
Coach speak.
More specifically, their pass game.
You know, this is going to be my first time playing against Iowa as a coach. And so I don't have any personal experience, but you obviously watch a lot of film and go through. And I just think that, they utilize their tight ends extremely well. They catch a lot of balls. You look at the stats, and they lead their team in catches and really long, athletic, tough. And they put you in a lot of conflicts of run pass, so you get more play action. And they'll get in the gun, and they'll spread it out. They'll go empty, and they'll do all those kinds of things. And they got a big, strong-arm quarterback that can make all the throws. So because of that, they're still running the football. They're still establishing that like they, you would expect them to. But they have the ability to spread you out. They can do it from both play action and just, true what I would consider spread formations. And they have the flexibility and versatility with their personnel to get into those looks without having to change out and to get into 10 or 11 all the time. They do a lot of their double tight ends or, 2 tight ends and a fullback or however they choose to do so. But I just think like anybody else that has a very talented quarterback as a passer makes you more dangerous, and they obviously showed it last week, put up a lot of points, created a lot of takeaways defensively, which set up some of those scores, but at the same time they faked a field goal, on one of their touchdowns. And so I'm just doing a lot of different ways of creating that momentum for their team and scoring lots of points. So, that's a ton of points in a Big Ten game. And so it's, adds to the challenge of defeating this team.
Coach Tom Allen there, Indiana's football coach, talking about the challenge of taking on the Iowa Hawkeyes this week. Iowa Hawkeyes is a team that I see that is better than average. They're not a great team, but they're better than average.
I'd agree with that.
Indiana is average, trying to be better than average. They have the pieces of a better than average team. They have the parts, and they performed better than average at times. But they are not a better than average team. They do not do that with consistency. They do not have the ability to go downfield successfully. They have a young defense that is prone to mistakes, but has played hard and played well and improved. That's going to be the key this week. I don't think the offense is going to be a problem. I think the offense will shine. But defensively, I think Iowa is going to see that Indiana had great difficulty against, what was it, Haskins?
Yep.
Dwayne Haskins of Ohio State, and his 455-yard, 6-touchdown performance showed them that there are some definite opportunities offensively against this young Hoosier squad. Yep. And it's not with the run. So look for Iowa to try to exploit Indiana's passing defense deficiencies.
We got a text in the show, but we should probably take a break first.
All right, let's do that. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll get to that. We've got Matt Weaver from Peegs.com, David Eickholt from 247 Sports in Iowa. All that and more. Hit us up on the text line, 502-414-1450. We're coming back with more Indiana Sports Beat right here.
With the tears because the baby's life has been revoked. The bond is broke, got so choked up.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
This hour of Indiana Sports Beat is brought to you by Brooks Roofing. Brooks Roofing is an Indiana contractor with over a decade of service. Find Brooks Roofing at brooksroofingin.com. They're probably working in your neighborhood right now.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle sitting in here. Justin Kalen high atop the crew chief's box.
That's right.
Spinning the tunes. What was that? I didn't mind it. Just
Take Me Out by Franz Ferdinand.
Cool beat. Speaking of Justin, let's get to him with the headlines.
All right, these are your headlines for October 10th on this Wednesday. Brought to you by Billy Joe's Gas and Food Mart, located on Highway 150 in Floyd's Knobs. Indiana University legend and first African-American football player drafted to the NFL, George Taliaferro, dies at 91. Red Sox defeat the Yankees 4-3 last night to advance to the American League Championship Series against the Astros. The National League Championship Series will be Brewers and Dodgers. And Brian Bowen Sr. was back on the stand yesterday. Not a whole lot coming out of that cross-examination other than the fact that Kenny Johnson gave Brian Bowen Sr. $1,300 for rent. Those are your headlines brought to you by Billy Joe's Gas and Food Mart, located on Highway 150 in Floyd's Knobs. Stop in for your hot breakfast, fill your gas tank, or hit up the lunch special, $5.99 today. Barbecue chicken, cheesy potatoes, and coleslaw.
Hit up the text line, 502-414-1450. Let us know what you're thinking. Any questions you might have coming up for Matt Weaver of Peegs.com or David Eickholt from 247 Sports in Iowa. Hawkeyes beat writer.
That's what Joker did, texted into the show. Like you said, 502-414-1450. Said, really, how good is Iowa's defense? They gave up 32 points to Minnesota, who scored only 13 points against Maryland.
Well, Maryland's the team that's getting better.
Sure.
And you can't always go by team because of just particular matchups, but they're not a great offense, but they're just better than average. They're efficient. That's what they're efficient. They do what IU does without the waste. So.
And then Tim also texts in. He said backup linebacker Amari Jones for Iowa came in the game Saturday and made 9 tackles, then was ejected. We'll miss the first half of the IU game. Indiana needs to take advantage of that. Also, 2 freshman corners are starting, but one had 2 interceptions and played well for Iowa.
Yeah, great point, Tim. They've got some injuries that they're dealing with, and I saw that, and that's good for Indiana because hopefully they can use that. Having those freshmen out on those corners, it's a vulnerable spot, especially when you play a team like Indiana who has a pretty vaunted little passing attack.
Still got to be able to get it there.
Well,
unless you just attack them short.
5 yards at a time, baby. 5 yards at a time. 5 yards in a cloud of dust.
But you would think with a freshman cornerback, that's an opportunity where you can try to take shots downfield.
Well, it's not like they've beaten Ohio State. They beat Michigan State downfield, but they just can't make the pass. It's, again, watching Drew Brees the other night, and, of course, we're talking about an 18-year professional Hall of Famer, but he throws this pass, and he literally put it in the guy's shirt pocket. I mean, the guy is running full speed and does not break stride and just it's almost as if he was wearing Velcro on his jersey, he could have just turned and let it hit his chest, and it would have stuck because he put it right in the guy's pocket. It was just a thing of beauty. And that's the difference. And when trying to go deep on deep routes, Peyton just seems to throw it up and hope that the receiver can run under it and catch it because he overthrows everything. I mentioned that yesterday. I think he overthrows everything because of not having confidence in getting picked off and not being accurate and throwing short. So he overthrows it, hoping the runner can get to it, hoping that he doesn't leave it short. The few times they were successful going downfield was a back shoulder throw. But the reason they haven't been able to use that so much is because the IU receivers had the defenders beat so badly, you couldn't do the back shoulder because they were 5-6 yards behind them. Hell, that would have been a pass to the defender. Yeah. But accuracy on downfield throwing would have already made a difference in this season. Now, I'm not saying they would have beat Ohio State. I think they would have lost that game regardless. I don't think they could have ever stopped them.
They would have had a damn good opportunity if they were able to complete a couple of them.
They would have. It would have been more along the lines of how it used to be under Kevin Wilson when they were losing 53-50 or whatever. But in the Michigan State game, that's a different game there. They can win that game if they can connect on these downfield passes, the one that they tried right off the bat against Michigan State, in which Reese Taylor had his man beat by 5 yards, and, of course, he's overthrown by 5 yards. Makes a huge difference. It's a game changer. Yep. Big plays are game changers, period, in a lot of ways, not just the score, but what it does mentally to the opposing team.
Yeah, and I think that's the important thing that a lot of people always forget. The mental aspect of continually getting beat downfield is just, it's hard to deal with. But, I mean, when you don't have that, what are you going to do?
Yeah, well, they'll do other things. But it's going to be an interesting game, a game I'm looking forward to. What's the spread now?
5.
Indiana's a 5-point underdog at home?
Yeah. You don't seem okay with that.
It's right on line with probably where it should be.
Yeah.
You know, on paper, Iowa is a better than average team. Indiana's an average team. It's probably separated by about that amount of points. But that's a game Indiana can win. If they can continue to do some of the things that they've done successfully, like cause turnovers, which they're one of the best in the Big Ten at, that's also huge. Not making mistakes, dumb penalties. And they could, but you got to have big play opportunity. You got to have big play capability. They don't have that.
You mentioned the penalties, though. That's one thing that I think IU's done a very nice job of this year. They haven't had a whole lot of shoot yourself in the foot type penalties.
No.
They've done a pretty good
calls.
job.
There's been some bad calls.
100%.
I mean, there's always going to be bad calls, but especially in the Big Ten, their officiating sucks.
Nobody's ever going to be happy with officiating ever again. I've come to realize that in my life. No matter the sport, nobody's going to be happy about the officials.
No, I wonder part of that is to do with instant replay. Are they afraid to make the call sometimes and would rather just let the camera do it?
Yeah.
What do you think about Brian Bowen Sr.? He's on the stand yesterday and talking. What do you think is going to happen to Louisville? They were on probation when an assistant gave money to a prospective recruit's father. That school also... No, it wasn't the school that allegedly was going to give him the $100,000, though. Have they tied that to Louisville? That's the thing. Or is that an Adidas thing like it was with Kansas? And then who was the player that Jordan Fair was talking about in that hotel room?
Yeah.
Is that a different player? If it is, and he says on that tape, I heard it, we got to keep this on the down low. We're on probation. Their ass is cooked.
Yeah.
And those U of L fans, I'm sorry. y'all got to pull your head out of your ass. You're not skating by on this. This has nothing to do with the trouble you got into already. This is a separate issue that you're going to get in trouble for while on probation for the stuff you did before for Strippergate.
Yeah, not good. Not a good situation.
No. And
recruits aren't going to want to stay.
Chris Mack has come in and done well recruiting.
Yeah.
A lot of 4 stars, but are they going to stay? Or are they going to decommit? Speaking of decommitting, Indiana football. We talked yesterday how they a huge, all week rather, pickup in flipping Samson James, a 4-star running back from Avon High School in Indianapolis, committed to Ohio State. He goes to visit the Ohio State-Indiana game, comes away, says, hey, I'm going to play for Indiana. Shocker.
Love it.
But then again yesterday, another player flips. This one not as big. He was going to Central Michigan, but a 3-star wide receiver defensive back has also flipped to Indiana, so Tom Allen picks up yet another commitment for the class of 2019. And they're still working on more. David Bell, big name out there.
And that Samson commitment put them up to number 41 in the country.
That's as high as they may have ever been in their existence.
I think I saw he's what, the number 7 recruit in the country?
8, I think.
8.
No, 8th running back in the country, not recruit.
I thought I read he was the 2nd best running back.
In the country?
In the country, yeah. I'll have to look into that.
Yeah. Reevaluate that.
That changes everything.
And, well, you have to check that out. Make sure you stay tuned. We've got a lot coming up here on the program. Matt Weaver from Peaks.com. Also, David Eickholt from 247 Sports in Iowa will be with us shortly as well. We've got all that and more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle. We're coming right back.
If you want to get your day off to a good start, then stop at Billy Joe's Gas and Food Mart on Highway 150 in Floyd's Knobs. While you're filling your gas tank, you could fill your own tank with a hot breakfast or try one of Billy Joe's daily lunch special. Billy Joe's Gas and Food Mart opens at 5 a.m. and everything is made fresh daily. And if you bring your own mug, coffee is only 50 cents. And Billy Joe's also has free air. The best place to start your day is at Billy Joe's Gas and Food Mart on Highway 150 in Floyd's Knobs.
Today's guest is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville with hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer. Pizza, burgers, beer. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle. We are here on this Hump Day edition.
Hump Day.
Welcome in now, Matt Weaver from Peaks.com. Matthew, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. How you guys doing?
Good, good. Looking forward to this game this week. Indiana taking on the Iowa Hawkeyes, a game that I see of two teams that are pretty closely matched in a lot of ways, style and statistically across the board. But I see Iowa as a team that's just a little more efficient in getting things done, and but it's going to be a great game, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's a little unusual for Iowa team. Iowa's usually a ground-based game, and that's the strength of their offense. And this year, they're not running the ball as well. Their quarterback Nate Stanley's playing really well, and they're really throwing the ball better. And then defensively, they're what they usually are. They're near the top of the Big Ten in most categories. Now, they're beat up on defense. I think they have a linebacker that's out, another linebacker that's suspended for the first half for a targeting call from last week. I think they have another linebacker or two that are banged up. So they're a little thin. Their secondary, they're actually starting two true freshmen at corner. I believe one of them's a kid from Indianapolis. So it'll be interesting to see, defensively if Indiana can take advantage of some of the personnel issues they're having.
Yeah, as I look across all the stats and was reading through everything, their passing game is probably the better aspect of their offensive run at you. And I'm sure they watched that Ohio State game and saw that there are some great possibilities against Indiana, as they saw Dwayne Haskins put up 455 yards against the Indiana secondary.
Yeah, and they'll the difference with Iowa, they've really, going back years and years, they've had great tight ends. Obviously anybody from around here, you remember Dallas Clark, he played for the Colts, but they just always seem to have really good tight ends. And that's the case again. And they have a couple guys they like to throw the ball to. They do a lot of stuff. They get them kind of roll out the quarterback and hit their tight end, and so it's going to be a game where Indiana safeties and linebackers, because those are usually the guys that are covering the tight ends, they really need to be bring their A game and try to do a great job against those guys.
I think their main tight end is hurt right now. They've got some injuries they're dealing with.
Yeah, Noah Fant.
Yeah,
Noah Fant, and I think the other guy's name, I could be wrong. It's like Hockenstein or something like that. Or, if Fant's down, that's a big loss for them. That's like losing it's basically like losing their number one receiver.
Well, Indiana showed some abilities of loosening up the purse strings a little bit on offense last week. They tried to go downfield a lot more, not successful with that in that regard. They've got to get that shored up to compete against teams like Iowa or Penn State, Michigan, because those are game changers. If they hit those passes to Reese Taylor in the Michigan State game, that changes that game. I don't think they beat Ohio State no matter what. I don't think they could have stopped them. But going forward, they just got to be able to add that to the arsenal because it would make it an extraordinarily dangerous offensive team.
Yeah, I agree. And, it was good. It was good, though, that offensively for a good part of that Ohio State, well, for most of the game, they were really a lot more creative with their passing game. It wasn't just the dink and dunk and the check downs. They were really trying to get the ball downfield. And the one area I think Peyton Ramsey's really good is in those passes. I call them intermediate passes from like 15 to 25 yards. And that's where he threw a lot of balls and was very successful against Ohio State. And he's been against other teams. But to get those passes, you got to soften up the defense. Those passes weren't available against Michigan State because they were basically all their defenders were in that area, so you really couldn't throw those. Ohio State, they took some shots, it softened up the defense, and then those passes were available. So they're gonna need to do that again this week. They need to take some shots. Hopefully, he can hit one or two. But at the very least, you still got to take them because even if they're incomplete passes, you get the defense thinking about it, and that should open up other parts of the passing game.
One of the good things about Indiana is they've been getting a lot done offensively without Luke Timian and Whop Philyaw in the last couple of weeks. And hopefully if those guys come back, that could make a huge difference. But they've been getting production in that area with who's there. And Ja'Shawn Harris has been the last guy to jump up and take the reins. And a 100-yard catching game against Ohio State along with Nick Westbrook. So they've had guys that just keep stepping up. But it would be great to get Whop and Luke back.
Oh, yeah. Obviously you saw what Whop can do against Michigan State. 13 catches for, I can't remember the exact number, but 60 yards and that long touchdown. 148. So, and Timian's that guy. He's kind of your security blanket. He reminds me a lot of, Mitchell Page from a couple years ago. When it's like 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, he's that guy that runs that route that gets you, and gets open and you throw it to him for that first down. He's such an important part of that offense. He may not be a big play guy, although he has made some in his career, but he's just so dependable. And then obviously Whop gives you the big play, and you can do the jet sweeps with him and things like that. So it'd be huge to get them back. Ja'Shawn has played terrific. What a great story what the kid's gone through, and to come back and not only play but play at a really high level. So if they get those two guys back and you add them with Ja'Shawn, and then keep Westbrook involved like they did last week, to me, that was the biggest storyline from that game is Nick Westbrook, because he's just so talented. If you can keep doing that, this passing game's got a chance to be pretty good.
Yeah, and the defense is shoring that up. They're young. They lost a lot last year. We know all that. This is going to be one of those games where the defense has to step up, because I see this as going to be kind of a shootout type of game. a game that could end up in the upper 30s or 40s for both of these teams.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm sure Iowa looked at that. IU did a good job against the Ohio State run game and really slowed that down. But obviously, you give up 455 passing yards, which, I mean, let's be honest, they're not going to face too many passing attacks like Ohio State the rest of the year. I mean, Haskins is an NFL guy. He's probably throwing to NFL guys, and then he's being blocked by NFL guys. So, Iowa's got a good passing attack, though. I mean, they proved that against Minnesota, and they proved it all year. So, I think the biggest key is when they got pressure on Haskins, they disrupted him. They got 2 picks off of it.
Yep.
It's just the question is, can you do it consistently? And can you do it without having to blitz? Because if you blitz and you don't get there, it's probably going to be a big play. That's what happened against Ohio State. When they blitzed and didn't get there, it was a big play. When they got there, they got him either throwing the ball away or throwing picks. And so against Iowa, you're going to Stanley's. He's a big, strong guy, so you have to try to get to him and hopefully get him off his spot and see if you can get him to make some mistakes.
Talking with Matt Weaver from Peaks.com. One thing that Indiana's defense has done an outstanding job of this year is forcing and recovering turnovers, whether it's a fumble or interception. They're at the top of the Big Ten in some of those categories. They've done a hell of a job, and that is huge for getting the ball in the hands of the offense so they can score.
Yeah, and I think Iowa the last couple of games has been kind of turnover prone. I want to say they've turned it over maybe 6 or 7 times or something. I could be wrong on that, but I think the last few games, I know against Minnesota they had some turnovers in that game last week. So that could be a big key. I mean, if you're Indiana, you can't lose the turnover battle almost any week, but you definitely can't lose it this week. And this team's kind of like, to me, they're kind of like Michigan State. I mean, this is a game where you can't fall behind. With their defense, I think they got some good DNs that can really get after the quarterback. So if you fall behind and have to throw a lot, that plays into their hands. So, hopefully you can get off to a better start than you did a few weeks ago when MSU came to town. But getting some turnovers, I think, will be huge. Winning special teams, that's always a big plus. So you can't have those mistakes that you had against Michigan State, the pick 6, giving up fake field goal for a touchdown, things like that.
Absolutely. And as moving forward, this game is not a make-or-break game, but it's a very important game for a couple reasons. To me, in my mind, this is one of those games that they could win that would give them a quote-unquote signature win for Tom Allen that he's not gotten yet over a seriously good team. But also it gives them that 5th win, which would be tantamount to securing bowl eligibility. But just beating a team like Iowa, mentally for this team, it would have to go miles.
Yeah, I agree. And if you look at also, obviously you lost Ohio State. If you lose this week, then you got Penn State come to town. They're going to be really tough. I mean, they're not quite at Ohio State's level, but they've shown that they're pretty close. So you could be looking at 4-4 going into Minnesota on a Friday night short week. And that becomes, if you're 4-4, that becomes basically a must-win. And then you got Maryland coming back, and then at Michigan and then Purdue. So you're kind of in the corner, putting yourself in the corner as far as getting those 6 wins. If you win this week, it's not clear sailing, but you're really, really in a great position. I mean, even no matter what happens against Penn State, you could achieve bowl eligibility at Minnesota, which I think is very doable. That's a game that Indiana has a great shot to win, but you don't want to have to go in there 4-4 on a 3-game losing streak if you're IU, if you can help it. So to me, this is a big one. And like you said, getting that signature win, kind of putting your stamp on the program for Tom Allen, I agree. I hate to call it a must-win, but it's pretty close. I think this is a really big game for IU.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I don't want to put the must-win label on it, but it's more of a must-win game for me as far as the signature win game. It's time. They've had opportunities to do that, and they've not done it yet, and it's time to get that done. To me, if you want to move forward, to me that's part of moving forward, is to show that you are making that progress, and making that progress by beating at least a team like Iowa, who's not in the class with Ohio State or Penn State or maybe Michigan for that matter. But they're in that category with right now where Michigan State is, and in Iowa they're better than average, but they're not at the top. but you've got to be able to show that you're playing with those teams at least.
Yeah, I agree. And, I mean, like you said, that those top-tier teams, there's 2 or 3 up there, Ohio State and Penn State and, I guess Michigan. But there's in that next tier. And if Indiana wants to move up from that kind of bottom third tier, kind of where they've been, obviously, for a while, this is a big game because Iowa is one of those consistent teams that Indiana's trying to get to be like. They basically, every year you can mark down Iowa for about 8 wins. Sometimes they have a year where they win, 9, 10 games when they have a, veteran team. But Indiana's trying to get to where Iowa is, and to do that, you got to beat them.
And actually, you're going to have to be better than Iowa because Iowa doesn't play in the Big Ten East, which Indiana's going to have to play in every year.
Yep, exactly.
So as they continue to move forward, that they hopefully can get to that point. But on the recruiting side, it's obviously paying off and making great dividends. We talked all week along, or not you and I, but we've talked about the huge commitment flip for Samson James. Unbelievable how he goes to the Indiana-Ohio State game and comes away and flips his commitment. Then again, that happens again yesterday with a commitment that was headed to Central Michigan. They get their second flip of the week. Big week recruiting-wise for Tom Allen.
Yeah, and obviously Samson James, I might be the highest, at least the highest ranked. I mean, obviously we go back to Gunnar Kiel, he was higher ranked, but I think, obviously I don't expect Samson James to flip again. I think he's done. So it'll end up probably being the highest ranked commit that Indiana signed. Just obviously a terrific player. I mean, that goes without saying. I mean, you look at his offers. I've seen him play. I haven't seen him play live this year just because he committed to Ohio State. So, but yeah, I saw him twice last year against Ben Davis, and he was terrific against the best team in the state. I'm going to try to go see him here before the end of the season. But, not a burner, but terrific feet, really gets north and south, has enough speed to take it the distance. He had a 70-yard run last year against Ben Davis. But just a great back. I mean, he catch the ball. It's just huge get. I mean, it's just such a big get. And then David Ellis last night, kind of an under-the-radar guy, but 6', 200, runs about a 4.45. Kind of like a bigger version of Reese Taylor is what he is. I mean, that's kind of how they're going to use him. Play some at running back, some at slot receiver. Michigan State's really close to offering. And, a lot of people think if that offer comes, he would take it. He told me last night, I talked to David late last night, he said he's done. He said it's over. It doesn't matter what Michigan State does. He's all in on Indiana, so that was good to hear from him. But really nice prospect. I really like this kid. I think he's one of those kind of guys like a Micah McFadden this year, who everybody was like, well, he's a red shirt. This could be a kid that's a real sleeper that maybe gets on the field sooner than people think because of his athleticism and his ability to make plays with the ball in his hands.
And we've seen what those players can do. Tom Allen, not afraid to put them out there. Reese Taylor, like you mentioned, having a phenomenal season. Stevie Scott as well. So we'll look forward to seeing how that wraps up. Matt, thank you so much. We appreciate you joining us.
Okay, take care, guys. Have a great week.
You too, brother. Matt Weaver from Peaks.com. Check his stuff out right there. Brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville with bold burgers, hand-tossed pizzas, and ice-cold beer. Pizza, burgers, beer, Bubba's 33. We've got more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat. David Eickholt from 247 Sports in Iowa. We're going to get the Hawkeye perspective next. Stay tuned here on Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle. We're coming right back.
Hey, if you're in the market for a new truck or tractor, car, or ATV, you need to be at Hollis Auction Service on November the 10th. Located on Highway 150 in Greenville, just west of Highway 335, Hollis Auction Service also needs items for the auction. If you're looking to sell, call Billy Joe Hollis today at 502-664-1606. That's 502-664-1606. Make sure you're at Hollis Auction Service in Greenville on November 10th. Today's guest is brought to you by Kentuckiana's premier truck center, located 5 miles north of downtown Louisville, just off of I-65 at Veterans Parkway in Clarksville.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat. Jim Coyle sitting in with you here, now joined by David Eickholt from 247 Sports in Iowa. David, appreciate you joining us.
Yeah, happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
You bet. Looking forward to this game. This game is at least on paper, it seems like a very, very equally matched couple of teams going to be going at it.
Yeah, it really does. This has always been kind of my trap game to watch this year. Indiana's, explosive, potentially explosive offense, and Iowa's really beat up right now. They a lot of freshmen having to contribute. Both the corners, both freshmen made their first career starts last week against Minnesota. Minnesota had their way with them passing wise for a little bit, but they were able to come away with 4 second-half interceptions. And, linebacker-wise, who really knows right now? Middle linebacker Jack Hawkeye is going to be out this week. Hurt his knee against Minnesota. And the backup, Amani Jones, got ejected for targeting with 45 seconds left in the game. So, a lot of maneuvering. So the backup weak side linebacker, Christian Welch, is going to be playing middle linebacker at least for the first half. And then beyond that, 2 more true freshmen at the linebacker, 2 deep. So it's going to be pretty interesting how Iowa tries to overcome that. I mean, a lot of pressure on the defensive line, and they're really worried about Peyton Ramsey's running ability. So I'm really interested to see how Indiana can protect Peyton Ramsey and how Ramsey can move the ball around. So it's going to be pretty fun to watch.
Yeah, Big Ten play has been a tale of 2 cities almost. In the Michigan State game, that defensive front of the Spartans just vaunted attack, and Indiana could not get much done, 29 yards rushing on that day. And then even against Ohio State, not a great rushing day. They had Stevie Scott had 64 yards in the first half, but that's what he would end with. Passing, they were able to do a little bit more, a lot more against Ohio State than they had this year. Ramsey had 322 yards, and they finally started going downfield a little bit with something they hadn't done much, and I think that's something that they'll probably try to do more with those freshman corners for the Hawkeyes.
Yeah, that's what Minnesota, at least in the first half, had really big success in. They just kept going after Riley Moss in the second half, and that's why Moss is able to come away with 2 interceptions. And, Iowa's rushing defense, obviously, it's been one of the better ones in the country. They're only allowed 2.7 yards to carry, 6th in the country, and they've only allowed 2 rushing touchdowns, which is only one of 2 teams to be able to do so. They held, Iowa State star running back David Montgomery to 44 yards when they played him. And, they, held Jonathan Taylor to, I think it was 113 with no touchdowns, and that's a challenge unto itself. So it'll be interesting. I think they will attack downfield. Nick Westbrook, I think, could have a huge game. But I will say, Julius Brents, the other freshman corner, really, really played well. Not just for a freshman. He played well for a college defensive back. He really looked like he was in his element. That's, Indianapolis guy right there, Warren Central. So he has been really good. Other than that, it was interesting. Last week they played Amani Hooker at outside linebacker just due to the linebacker depth, and they moved up Geno Stone to play safety. So it'll be interesting. Like I said, I think Iowa's going to play a lot of sub packages, which is rare, and you haven't seen all of them. And I think Iowa's going to really try to bring the heat because, like I said, that defensive line has been really the main front that's kind of kept this defense together. Because the defense is right now, at least, you can look at who they played or whatnot. But they've lived up to all expectations. 18 sacks in the first 5 games. Anthony Nelson had 3 sacks in the first half last week against Minnesota. So I think Iowa's going to bring the heat and try to make Ramsey beat him with his feet and make him. So, like I said, it'll be interesting. It'll be really fun. I will say the junior corners, Matt Hankins and Michael Ojemudia, will be available. They should be, according to Kirk Ferentz. So it'll be interesting to see if one of the freshmen struggle if they throw back in one of the more experienced guys.
Talking with David Eickholt from 247 Sports in Iowa. A huge loss for the Hawkeyes if he's not able to go is Noah Fant, their big tight end.
Yeah. There's a lot of worry about him right now. It was on a reverse run with him. He kind of fell, and you watch the replay, hit his head. We should know more by Friday about his status. Kirk Ferentz really doesn't like to say much. He kind of towed around the question when we asked him yesterday. Another guy to watch out for is Ivory Kelly-Martin, the starting running back. He only had 47 yards on 20 carries against Minnesota, but he's also questionable. Like I said, just injury-wise right now, there's a lot of questions surrounding this team. They got really beat up last week against Minnesota, so we'll know more about their stats on Friday. And you're right, it will be a huge loss. Noah Fant's tied for the team lead in receptions, but T.J. Hawkinson's been a pretty reliable option as well. Leads in the team in receptions as well as yards. Noah Fant's been that big red zone guy. They really haven't had anyone else really step up in the red zone. So that would be, like you said, that'd be a huge loss if he can't go.
We talked a lot about injuries. Indiana also has been without Luke Timming and Whop Phillier. They're two of their top receivers for the last couple of weeks, but they've gotten great fill-in from Ja'Shawn Harris, who's coming back from his third ACL injury. He had 100 yards receiving against Ohio State, as did Nick Westbrook, who you mentioned. But if they can get those guys back, that should actually help their passing game as well, as they had a lot of success against Ohio State. But if they can get the downfield game going, that would be, to me, that would make Indiana a very, very tough out against whomever they're playing. But that just, you've got to add that wrinkle to really give yourself the complete flexibility offensive-wise.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think they're going to really attack deep. Another thing that's really hurt Iowa, and this is just because, like I said, all the linebacker shuffles. Iowa started 6 different guys at linebacker this year. Last week, none of the original Week 1 starters started because Nick Niemann's out as well, another starting linebacker. So I think Indiana's going to go over the top. I also look for, like you said, Ja'Shawn Harris may be coming over the middle on a couple underneath routes, because some of the longest plays Iowa's given up this year just come on simple over-the-middle crossing routes. Then, they get a run-up field mark 20, 25 yards. And that's really haunted Iowa this year, and that's just because of the inexperienced linebacker play. So I think they're going to throw it early, they're going to throw it often, and they're really going to try to challenge the freshman corners to step up like they did in the fourth quarter last week. And that's exactly what they should do. When you look at even the safety depth of Iowa, it's not tremendous. You get Amani Hooker, then you have former walk-on Jake Gervais, but Jake Gervais has been a solid player for Iowa and a real leader defensively. But Iowa's been really good against the run. Stevie Scott, obviously, 520 yards in this season. He's been relatively effective, but, like you said, a little bit slower. So I look for Peyton Ramsey to probably have, I'd look for maybe over 300, 350 yards. They should throw it early, and they should throw it often.
Yeah, one of the things I noticed against Ohio State that they did for the first time this year was seem to roll him out a little bit to help with protection, because obviously you're going against a great team in Ohio State, as it will be with Iowa, with a great front line. But they did not do that against Michigan State, and they paid the price. They did not have the success they needed in the passing or running games that night. But I think you'll see a lot more of that with him against Iowa, and if they can get those guys back, like I said, they've been really spreading the wealth too. I mean, each game they're going to 9, 10 different guys catching a pass, which that gives you a lot of flexibility, and that's got to make it much more difficult on the defense, and even the defensive coordinator calling the play or calling the scheme over there.
Yeah, like you said, I think you're right. I think spreading the wealth is going to be big for Indiana to do, because the way Iowa can really defend the pass this year has been just to lock on, the main 1 or 2 guys. And again, that just goes right back to the inexperience. What I'm anticipating Kirk will try to do is have a QB spy, look for Jaime Colbert. He's out of Kansas. He's a redshirt freshman. He gained 30 pounds last year. He came in as a safety, and they moved him over to that weak side spot, and I'm anticipating he's going to play a really, really big part in trying to slow down Peyton Ramsey on the ground. Because, like you said, the couple rollouts, I think there was one where he rolled out, and I think he took it the other way after on Ohio State. It was on like a 3rd down. He picked up, 12, 13 yards and got a first down. And that's just what he's capable of doing. And Iowa really this year hasn't seen that kind of dual threat guy. So I think they're really, really placing a big emphasis on trying to slow him down. And if Indiana can spread the wealth, that's exactly why I said they're going to be one of the tougher outings Iowa has this year. It sort of reminds me of what Purdue can beat you as. 2 separate teams, like 2 different teams, obviously. They are both capable of just, exploding on you at random times. So I think this is going to be the biggest challenge for Iowa's defense this season so far this week. Even more than Wisconsin, more than Iowa State more than anything else, especially with the momentum with homecoming and everything else. So it's going to be a big challenge for Iowa, and I think this could be a season definer for them.
Talking to David Eickholt from 247 Sports in Iowa, you just answered my next question, was how much has Iowa been challenged and where would this sit? And so that says a lot because Wisconsin, while not a juggernaut of any sorts, they're still a very, very good team and a team that looks to be fighting for a spot in the national playoffs. So for you to say that this will be their biggest challenge, that says a lot for the Indiana offense.
Yeah, it really does. And, like when you go back to the Iowa-Wisconsin game even, I mean, Iowa really killed themselves. So I said the biggest difference between right now this Iowa team and this year's Wisconsin team, Wisconsin just knows how to win, and they do it really, really well. And that's a skill. It just takes, a couple big wins to really learn how to do it. There's really no magic formula. You just need to learn how to win those games. And that's something that Iowa just couldn't do this year. They made Alex Hornibrook beat them, and he found a way to do it. Wisconsin has a couple of good receivers. Hornibrook isn't the best passer. But, I right now I really do believe that this is going to be the best offense that Iowa's played this year. In terms of just like you said, they're able to run. They have a dual-threat quarterback. They have multiple receiver options. It's going to be big, and especially with all the injuries decimated. Not a lot of experience there, and, the experience they have, it's not with these type of guys that can explode like Indiana can, because I think a lot of people know that Indiana is capable of some really, really big things offensively, just with the pure talent aspect they got and skill-wise.
As I've said, these are two teams I think are very equally matched. They're kind of mirror imaging of each other, very good offensively, lacking a little bit on the defensive side. With that in mind, I'm expecting a game that could reach into the 40s for both sides and could be a type of shootout.
Yeah, honestly, after last week, I wouldn't have said that a week ago, but after Iowa giving up, 31 last week to Minnesota, we'll see. It depends on how much I think Iowa turns it over. Because there were a couple times in Minnesota last week, they had a scoring drive of 6 yards and a scoring drive of 3 yards. So it wasn't really all on the defense, but, nonetheless. But, yeah, you're right. It could be a shootout. I'm interested to see how Iowa offensively they can keep that momentum going. Against Minnesota, they had 3 receivers with more than 50 yards, and that was the first time since 2015 they accomplished that feat. Last time they did it was against Indiana back in 2015, actually. So I think that's going to be a big key because the receivers for Iowa haven't really stepped up to the plate. Through the first 2 games this year, they had 9 total receptions between the wide receivers. Over the last 3 games, they've had 34. So they've been able to step up in a big way, but consistency has been a big key for them. And especially if Noah Fant can't go, a lot more pressure falls on Nate Stanley's shoulders and the wide receiver shoulders to get open because T.J. Hawkinson can't be the only receiving option for him.
Yeah, you talk about turnovers. Indiana, that's one thing they have done very, very well defensively. They're in tops in the Big Ten and in causing turnovers. They've gotten, whether it's forcing fumbles or interceptions, they've done a lot better job this year than they did last year even. So they have looking to create opportunities to get the ball into the hands of the offense. And I'm expecting, like I said, a great game. What is it going to take for Indiana to win to beat this Iowa team that you cover?
I think that, like I said, I think you got to throw it deep, and I think you need to find a way to get pressure on Nate Stanley. Nate Stanley, he's been, over the last 3 games, has been pretty solid, but he's throwing some really weird passes that result in maybe a pick a game, and I think they need to find a way to get to him. And like you said, turnovers is the big key. Set yourself up in good field position and really put the pressure on the back of the inexperienced Iowa defense outside that defensive line. And Stanley's been known to cough it up a couple times this year, and Iowa has not been able to recover many fumbles this year. So that's going to be big. And force Iowa to make special teams mistakes. They were really good last week, but special teams is what arguably cost Iowa the game against Wisconsin. Two fumbles on punt returns or 2 miscues on punt returns, and just play solid special teams ball. And, like you said, create turnovers and throw it deep.
David Eickholt from 247 Sports in Iowa. I can't tell you how much appreciated, brother. Look forward to it. Do you cover basketball as well?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, I'm sure we'll be talking during basketball season.
All right, I appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
You bet, David. Thank you very much. David Eickholt from 247 Sports in Iowa. Brought to you by our good friends at Kentuckiana's Premier Truck Center. Whether it's one truck or the entire fleet, Kentuckiana's Premier Truck Center has your company covered for sales or service. They've got locations in Louisville and Clarksville. Volvo, Cummins, Hino, and Mack experts, but they cover everything. Get your truck over there. They'll take care of your fleet. Pretty much going to wrap it up for us today. Another great show, Justin.
Excellent show, yeah.
Had Matt Weaver from Peaks.com and David Eickholt from 247 Sports in Iowa on today talking about things. Tomorrow, Terry Hutchins will be on the program. Probably Stu Jackson as well. But then on Friday, Mitchell Page. You heard Matt mention him earlier, but looking forward to having Mitchell on. He is back from Germany and playing professionally over in Europe. So we'll get a chance to talk to Mitchell and see what he's been up to and talk some football with him.
Yeah, it should be fun. Yeah.
Looking forward to it. Thanks a lot for tuning us in. We look forward to being back with you again here tomorrow. So make sure you tune in for that. And you can find us at various locations. You can find us on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Play, or IndianaSportsBeat.com, or, of course, on Facebook. Make sure you check us out there. Also, coming up next, you got Kentucky Roll Call with TJ Walker and Nick Rouse. Getting a little ahead of myself. Make sure you stay tuned for those guys. That's pretty much going to wrap it up for us. For Justin Kalen, I'm Jim Coyle, and I will see you on the radio.
Quicksands got no sense.